Hello and welcome to the Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast,
which gives you, the listener, a series of hints and pointers on your journey as a musical artist.
providing you with interviews from those in the music industry, along with our own experiences.
Ben and James shine some light on the many pitfalls and opportunities that being a musician has to offer.
Last week, Ben was on the tour bus of Everything speaking to John Higgs about moving cities, videos, identity, touring and licensing music. This week, he's down in London speaking to music video director David Wilson about getting started in the industry, building up his reputation, working with big bands and common challenges. Welcome to episode 34 with me, James, and him,
Ben, I'm just going to say, you want to ask why you're laughing? I just caught on your notes drill for about 2 minutes and I was like, what is he on about? And I remembered there was a drill in this one, wasn't there, for 2 minutes?
There was a drill. To be honest, it wasn't too bad.
No, it wasn't. And it was quite funny because when I was talking to David Wilson, who was our guest this week, music video director, amongst other things, we met up in his flat, which was nice and quiet, and all of a sudden there was a drill.
As listeners of the show will know, you have a checkered history in terms of where you perform interviews with guests.
I would say the balance is somewhat tipping in favour of quiet establishments now.
Well, yes, you are on the up when it comes to the location, and I was that fair play. You're indoors again.
Yes.
Happy days.
I've had one outdoor.
And then a drill kicks off.
Out of nowhere. I mean, his window was open because it was quite a warm day in London town.
But it only lasted for like a minute.
Yeah, so. And the window did get shut.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the only entertainment. When you first sent through, 'cause again, this was an episode or an interview that I couldn't make. So when you sent it through before I start editing it, I just scrolled to a random part of the recording that you sent through.
I didn't know that bit.
And the bit that I happened to press play on, just to check audio quality, the first words that I heard were absolutely ridiculous. I was slightly concerned as to what the episodes were going to be. When I listened to the whole quote,
yes,
it made perfect sense.
Everything is about context.
Yes, but the bit that I started on was monkeys. There's a bit where brain is ejected out of the anus of an eagle.
Well, the key word before monkeys is Artic, which are a band. You may have heard of them.
Indeed.
And the bit before that was about a video that David had done for the Artic Monkeys.
But without any of that context...
You have to have context in this life, James.
Context was key.
But it's actually... That is a very important part of the interview because it just shows the freedom that David has through his work, that he's allowed himself because he's done so well, that he can do something which we both at the time went, it was quite bizarre.
Yeah. Well,
David himself said that along those lines.
Well, I
didn't think I was going to get away with it. It was like his exact words.
Yeah. It was a great interview, which...
Yeah, so just as a bit of background, I really wanted to interview not just David, but a couple of music video directors. David is one of the first people that I contacted, and he got back in touch, and we've had a chat for a little while. Been all over the world in the 6 months I've been talking to him.
He gets about. Every time you've been looking to set this up, he's like, oh, well, I'm in America, or then he was in...
Mexico, and Moscow, and Amsterdam.
He gets about.
I mean,
he's in demand.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
You can tell why.
Yeah. So this is part 1 of part 2, and...
It's the part 1 of part 2.
Is that what I said? This is part 1 of 2 parts.
Right, good.
But we're going to head down to London this time, Hackney, and talk to David Wilson about music videos. Good morning. Yeah. Here we are in London. First time in London for the podcast with David Wilson, music director. Is that correct title?
Yeah, I guess. Music video director.
Music director, and amongst other things as well. Yeah. But we're primarily going to talk about music videos today because we tried it as a band, trying to do our own videos. So maybe we could just talk about a bit about you, a bit about how you got here, and about music videos in general. So just a bit about yourself and what you do would be great to start with, just for people who don't know who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I live in London. I direct music videos primarily, although at this stage in my career, I tend to do about 3 each year. So that doesn't sound very productive, but as we'll get on to, I hope people start to understand that the scale and ambition of each piece means that actually doing 3 a year is about right.
Okay.
And I'll do other projects as well, such as commercials. So I've been doing this for 9 years now.
Right.
I studied illustration. So I'm from arts background, didn't study film. I studied at Brighton. Everything that was around me at the time was vibrant with music. There's just this huge explosion of music coming from London and from Brighton itself. Everything from Metronomy to the Klaxons and the Maccabees. Like that was all part of the world that I was inspired and aspiring to be in when I was studying. So moved to London at 2007, just before the financial crash.
Okay.
And managed to get in with a production company.
Right.
And then elbow my way into the music video department. That's all I wanted to do was make music videos. That was the majority of music video directors, not the majority, but a lot of people that you talk to, they'll see music videos as a stepping stone to features. That was never my goal. I always just wanted to express myself through music that made me come to life.
Right.
And just immerse myself in music and draw and make those drawings come to life in whatever way I could.
Oh, cool. So I was thinking this on the train down. I didn't write it down because I literally thought as I was on the tube, what was the one video? There must be one video. Like I've already got one song that made me want to pick up the guitar up. What was the one video that you saw and went, I like that. That's what I want to do. How do I become this person?
I feel like it was the Michel Gondry director's label DVD. So it's like not one specific video, but I can't remember the name of the actual song. It's something to do with sugar, but it was a song where the video was played backwards, and our lecturer showed it to us within our first few weeks of being at Brighton. And they have the screen split in two, and they have what seems to be 2 women, I think, but you realise it's the same person, because one half is being played forward and the other half is being played backwards. I think that's right.
Okay.
And so you're following these 2 journeys, and at one point, I mean, I haven't seen this in 10 years. I think they either cross over halfway through.
I was going to ask that.
Or they converge at the end.
Right, okay.
But it was being able to play with structure, film structure, in a way that would be intolerable for a feature.
Yes, okay.
But playful for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unique and really exciting. And then like White Stripes Fell in Love with a Girl, the Lego one, that things like that animation just seems so accessible. I remember when I was 10 years old and seeing Wallace and Gromit and just going, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't, but you felt like you could. You felt like you could set up like I had my dad's Hi8 camcorder and set that up in my bedroom and moved my Lego bricks around.
Yeah.
And it's that accessibility, which I think turned me on the most, like made me realise I could achieve that rather than it being an unachievable thing.
That accessibility thing, I think, is an important thing. Because the one that, as I was saying just before, like I learned a lot of Oasis songs when I first started.
Yeah.
And it was that accessibility of, I can put these chords together. When you look into it a bit more further, there's a bit more detail to it. But I think there's always that just one little thing, whatever it was. White Stripes. I also like the video for Hardest Button to Button.
Yeah. But again, that was unaccessible.
Right.
Because you couldn't have like 25 drum kits.
True. Good point.
But you could have Lego bricks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there is a crossover with music, especially, being able to learn chords and it's that, oh, I can play 3 chords. Therefore, being able to play 3 chords means I can play hundreds of songs that I love already. This is amazing.
Exactly.
And I can form a band.
Yes, and I can form a band, that's right. So you mentioned it a couple of times about illustration. A lot of your early videos are illustrated. I think there's a few Tame Impala ones. The Artic Monkey ones seems like they're for Do I Want to Know. Is that... So how did that... I'm trying to figure out word the question. So was that your easiest way into before getting to live action? Well, like, this is what I can do. Let's showcase what I can do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's that accessibility thing. All I had at my fingertips was I got a computer at the age of 20, and I had a scanner and I had A4 printer paper.
Okay.
And like I knew I could draw. I was like quite proficient at drawing. My drawing has gone downhill ever since, but at that time I could draw really well.
Okay.
And I had time to fill. I wanted to be as productive as possible. So I would just draw relentlessly, do these repetitive drawings that form animation. I'm a really bad animator.
Okay.
But I really like being able to let my drawings go and morph and change. So I couldn't draw like a walking cycle to save my life. But I could like draw a face that then morphs into like a cow. Like, I could do that.
Right.
So being able to do those drawing experiments at university then led me to being signed by a production company. And it also meant that I felt I could put something professional looking out there. The only camera equipment that was available to me within my price range would have been like a camcorder, a mini DV camcorder. I know when I was about 23 or 24 is when the Canon 5D came out, which made everyone very excited because you could have a kind of filmic look, have shallow depth of field on a budget. But before that, you just couldn't really do live action that looked to a professional level. So animation was my way in.
That's cool.
And I was hugely intimidated by live action as well. Just like, I didn't know how to work with sound. I didn't know anything about cameras. I didn't know anything about lighting. But animation, you're in control of.
So, you said there that you got signed to a production company. How does that whole process work? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's a total thing. So, what happened was a series of chances. We had a exhibition in London. The degree show. So my year group, we raised funds during the 3 years of our time at Brighton. We threw parties and raised money from those parties to fund a London exhibition. So we took all our work to the Truman Brewery in Brick Lane and put the exhibition on. And the head of the animation department of a production company called Blink, he went along because he wanted new artwork for his flat. He just liked looking at illustrations and artwork.
All these things happen like that.
Yeah, and seeing what's happening. And so he went around the exhibition. There are multiple exhibitions going on, so there's different universities showcasing at this exhibition. And he came across this TV that was showing my work, my like little corner of work. And it meant that when I wrote to him like a few weeks later saying I'd like to come in for a meeting. He immediately recognised my work and said, "I know you. Yes, come in."
That's good, like grabbing it by the horns.
Yeah. And I think that was definitely encouraged to do that when I was at uni, to write to people, to get my foot in the door.
An actual letter or an email?
No, an actual letter.
Nice.
It was a like proper mail out. It had a DVD in. It had postcards. It's a whole thing. I mean, if you send a DVD to anyone now, they'll just what do you do with that? Yeah. But at that point in time, Vimeo didn't exist. YouTube had just started, and he watched my work, and we stayed in contact. And 6 months later, I was signed as an experiment to the production company.
Right.
They wanted to see what it was like to take a director that is so green and so unjaded and not kind of beaten down by this system of like trying to do stuff themselves. So just be like, okay, we'll take this kid and we'll just fund him to do wicked music videos. Yeah. And that's
so it was actually
essentially
specifically for music videos?
Yeah, it was not specifically for music videos. In essence, it's more specific to train me up to do commercials. Right. But in order to get my name established and to express my creativity and kind of do a window front, a kind of shop window of this is this director, they use music videos. That's kind of the structure of production companies now, that music videos are the shop window, and commercials are what they make the money from. So there are hardly any solely music video production companies anymore. Right. In fact, I can't even think of one.
So when you started getting this whole experiment, what were the first ones they threw you onto, like that people may know, and did you just jump straight into illustration for those ones as well?
Yeah, so no one will know these ones. Okay. But that's kind of the point. Yeah. The reason why I was thrown on these two music videos at the beginning was that we could take ownership of the creativity of the music video. Right. That we kind of worked with the band and said, all right, we're going to do this, but we're essentially funding the video. And so you should be cool with what we're doing, but there's a certain element, more of an element of collaboration, because we want to have something really cool to show as well. Okay. So the first one was for a guy called Murray McLaren, who was the brother-in-law of Bart, who's the head of the animation department of this production company. And so we were doing this as a wedding present to him, to say, like, to launch his career as a musician, essentially. And that took 6 months of work. It was animation brought into a live action world. What we did was I had animated these loops. There were 16 frame loops that were then laid out onto record labels, like big labels that took over the whole 12-inch disc. And then I made by hand these card bent mirrored carousels called praxinoscopes. So when you put the praxinoscope on top of the 12-inch vinyl with this huge sticker the size of the vinyl and spun it, it would animate. So you'd look into the mirrors, and the different planes that went around it, there were 16 planes and there were 16 images, meant that your eye kind of read each reflection, and each time it kind of bent, it formed a new frame. It's amazing. You can kind of spin it around and do whatever, like speed it up, slow it down, place a mirrored carousel wherever you want, and it will make an animation. So it took me a really long time to make all of those. And then we showed it to this director of photography called Tim Green. And we were just going to shoot it in like a bedroom or like in the office at the weekend and clear all the desks away and put a colorama up. But he saw it and he goes, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And he managed to get us this big motion control arm from like the Harry Potter set. Wow.
Right. Is that a moment when you go, I didn't expect this to happen so soon?
No. And this huge studio in Wimbledon, we all went down for the day, and he was doing these insane camera moves that would go up to a record player and then out and around and over to the next one. And when it's motion control, it meant that you could change the record labels, those stickers, in between each take, but the camera would do the same move to the exact same timing, to the exact same millimeters. So essentially you have the same shot, and when you layer it up in the edit, you can cut between the two shots and the labels change. So it was amazing. So we had all this down, but the budget was like $2,000.
Right, okay.
Because we just did it all on these commercial favours, which just wouldn't have happened. There's no way that would have happened off my own back. This is Bart, Blink Inc., which is a production company, and Tim Green just going, all right, this technique is really special. Let's throw everything at it and elevate this to something insane. And that's what we did. And then the next video I did was for a band called We Have Band. And the script itself was written by a agency called Wyden and Kennedy. And so it's kind of like a commercial, but not a commercial. It was an expression, a creative expression for the creatives at the advertising agency. They wanted to do an animated music video where we animated face paint on people's faces, which is insane. And I don't think any music video director in their right mind would propose such an idea because it's too difficult. You're just like, we can't do it. Really? But because it had come from an agency, there's that element of, okay, here's a problem, let's solve it. And I feel that's the only way a video like that could have ever got made was, here's your problem, let's solve it. And they had these hugely ambitious ideas of, let's have a snake animating out of this person's mouth and wrapping around their neck. And we had 3 days to shoot it in. And I said, well, all that we can really do is like have a colour that like wipes over someone's face. And that will take a whole day to do.
Wow.
Because you're hand painting on someone's skin and they'll move their head and all that stuff. So taking their ambition and knowing the practicalities and meeting in between and finding shortcuts and finding ways to make what will be a limited amount of animation big meant that we created this really amazing video, something I'm still really proud of. And those 2 videos launched my career. And those 2 videos launched my career in a way that gave me an artistic weight and an artistic voice that I can still carry forward. I didn't start my career doing music videos for bands where it's performance, where it's like, let's cut to the bass player, let's cut to the drums. Like, there's only so many ways you can see someone play a synthesizer. You know, you can't really launch your creative self. You can't really launch your voice in that way. So I was very lucky to be able to launch my voice through these 2 pretty impactful pieces. And then from there I was able to go and continue to express my voice. And as you said, with like Tame Impala and Arctic Monkeys, that was like 4 or 5 years into my career. So by that point, I'd really kind of understood what I could do, where I could push things. I'm still really proud of, in the Arctic Monkeys, there's a bit where brain is ejected out of the anus of an eagle. And stuff like that makes me really happy. Like being cheeky, being able to throw little curveballs in there, all that stuff makes me really happy. And I wouldn't have got that weight or the kind of strength and confidence to do that without the route that I'd gone on.
That's probably quite rare then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very rare.
Yeah, it's nice that people take chances on people still, though. Go to hell with the budget, well, more or less.
Yeah.
So you just said there actually about the creative and the agency getting involved and the artists getting involved, and you saying this is good for you. When you get someone like the Monkeys or Tame Impala or whoever, how much collaboration do you have with the artist?
So the way that it works when you get to that level, or kind of those 2 videos were its own unique thing. I then went and worked in the industry. And when you go and work in the industry, you pitch. So there will be, what you'd like is that there are about 3 or 4 other directors writing on a music video track to make the music video. But in reality, it can be like 12, it can be 15, it can be 18. It can be so many people all clambering to make this music video, which no one makes any money off. Like, the directors don't really get a fee. Everything is stripped down to its bare essentials only through creative ambition. You know, directors can make a fee, but in order to create that piece of work, everything would have to be stripped down. So I rarely take a fee for a music video because I want the video to have the biggest ambition possible. I want to make the piece in my head to that piece of music more than anything else.
Right.
More than being able to eat. So, I mean, it's not that extreme because I do get jobs from other places, but the creative drive overtakes. And when that is intertwined with winning only about 1 in 10 music videos that you write on, that's the reality of being a music video director. And I think with people knowing my work as well, it's got easier, but I would write to the same level of detail as the Tame Impala piece or the Arctic Monkeys piece, and I describe what's happening on every single beat of the music. I want to describe it. I don't want to leave a stone unturned, and I want to know that if I won the piece, I would make it the best piece I possibly could. But I would do that for every video, even though I was winning 1 in 10. So for the majority of my 20s, I spent 80% of my time writing and being told no, and 20% of my time making stuff.
Wow.
And that's quite kind of hard to push through, but I was just so obsessed. Like, every time that it got hard, if a track came in that you fell in love with, or a band came in that you were obsessed with, everything went out the window, and you're just like, I'm gonna try this again. And when it really clicks, when you're really in love with the track, then the majority of the time you get the track and you get to make it. That's what I've learned, is that there's this synergy, especially with Tame Impala. Tame Impala was the realization of, for both Mind Mischief and for Let It Happen, I felt that the scripts that I was writing were, okay, this is way too true and way too honest, and it's way too personal for the band to greenlight it or be into it. Like Tame Impala, the Let It Happen video is about a man having a heart attack and dying, and that's for one of the biggest pop records of that year. It's like nobody's gonna they're not gonna want to go with this video about a man dying of a heart attack. And then, you know, Kevin responded going, yes, that's exactly what we want to do.
Sometimes it just clicks.
It just clicks. Yeah, so we have me and Tame Impala have a really special relationship, and the same with Arcade Fire.
How involved artists get from the start to the end, whether it's as much as Win does or as little as whoever does. And one of the things, James, was you always ask this question, what sort of things do they get wrong? It's kind of a case of what traps could an unsigned artist fall into quite easily?
I think the main thing that I've learned through my years is it's all about communication, especially when music video treatments can be quite ambitious. The very nature of music videos means that things can get a bit turbulent, that you're pinning all your hopes on shooting a video in one day. And if the treatment has, and we finish on a beautiful sunset, and you know you're shooting in England, you're like, wait, what if there isn't a beautiful sunset? And just the reality from both sides of being able to communicate, how are you doing this? And keep me informed if things change, I think is the best approach for a musician to go with the director. I think even though the music video, I empathise and understand that the music video is such a reflection of the band, there's also got to be that understanding that when you pick with the majority of music video directors, nobody's doing it for the money, everyone's doing it for the love, and they want to do the best job they possibly can. Let them do it.
Right.
Because they're
the experts.
Well, no, they're not the experts.
Oh, okay.
We're all trying, but we're all coming from the right place.
Okay.
Nobody's trying to swindle anyone. Everyone's going, we want to do the best piece of work possible, and making sure that the treatment is thorough is a really good way of doing that. I had a discussion about this with Metronomy actually, and they have an impeccable back catalogue of music videos, and they have a really good choice of directors. And what they said about choosing their music video directors and treatments was that they read the treatment and they just understood what they were getting. It was a thorough treatment.
Right. Okay.
And when a treatment comes in and it's a bit wishy-washy, it's a bit of a red flag for them. So maybe that's the best advice I could give, is just make sure you know what you're getting and don't be afraid to ask questions, because by the time it gets to the shoot day, it's too late.
The money's been spent.
Yeah.
So if you were in a band now, and
Yeah.
you just thought, I'm going to have a go at a video,
Yes.
so knowing what you know, how would you approach it?
Well, I would do my own video for sure.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You're going to do your own video for your own band.
Yes.
Unsigned.
Yeah.
Not a lot of cash.
Yeah. And I'm going to remove myself from being where I am in the industry.
Yeah, of course.
And just go, okay, let's do
yeah.
this with like a camcorder or a
Or phone.
Canon 5D or phone.
Yeah.
It's got to be, I think it's such a firm extension of you knowing yourself. And it's a kind of visual reflection of of how well you know yourself and your music. So if you're being very true and honest in your music and really finding who you are, it's an extension of that through the visuals that you're showing. And I think what's quite good to reflect on is the visuals and any kind of art form. It should be open to interpretation by the viewer and the listener. Everyone knows when they listen to a song that the songwriter may have wrote it because of an event in their life, but that may not, and the majority of the times isn't how the listener interprets it. They take it and they bend it and they twist it and they go, oh, I listened to it in this place and time and it reminds me of this emotion or helped me get through this. And I feel a danger with music videos can be when artists want to clarify what specific moment and time their feeling was. So because as a self-directed thing, I think there's an impetus to go, okay, now I'm visually representing this. I want to show that it was specifically about a breakup with a person at this point in time in this city. And that can be wonderful, but I also feel like don't weight it down too much and let it breathe in its own way.
It's good advice,
Yeah, and I think like with how anyone makes music, where it all starts out is playing the music that you're inspired by, like you starting by playing Oasis covers. And I feel that goes hand in hand with filmmaking. The way that I construct my films, and I think the majority of people construct their films, is similar to music, where you're making a cocktail. You're going, okay, I want a little bit of Kubrick, and I want a little bit of Paul Thomas Anderson, and then I want an injection of Spike Jonze with a like dance in there.
Yeah.
And I really like this thing that happened like from this cat video on the internet. And you kind of like can blend them together, and that's what comes out in the same way that when you make music, especially when you're starting, you go, I like The Clash and I like, you know, Arcade Fire. Like, so I want to mix the energy of this, but have the sound of that. But I also really love this African beat. So it's got an African beat underneath, and it's exactly the same.
That's cool. It's funny you mentioned cat videos there, because one of the things that James was wondering about was where, because MTV is not the MTV I grew up with anymore. And now, well, MTV2, I guess, was mainly what I used to watch. Where are videos seen now? Like, and also, do you think of the 3.5 minute MTV video, or the 7.5 minute YouTube one where a real fan will watch the entire thing from second one to second 7.5 minutes? How do you blend all of that with the mediums that are out there to people that watch your videos?
I feel like music videos are digested in multiple ways, and they're all valid. From the 10-second Snapchat, Instagram story version of the music video to the, you know, as you say, 7-minute epic. So they're all valid, and they all come from the same place. So one piece of work that I've just done for Dita Fontees, which is a 10-minute video, I've been having a lot of discussion about that with the production company that I'm signed with in the UK that produced it. And they're saying, we really should have a cut down version. And I'm kind of stressing that we already do, because we have a trailer. We have a 1-minute version and we have a 30-second version. So on Instagram and Snapchat and Instagram stories and Facebook, people will be able to get an essence of what you've done. And I'm sure there'll be lots of people that just watch those 30 seconds or just watch that minute and go, oh, I love that video that you did. Because they'll get the essence of what it is. They'll get it like distilled. But then there's also the option to go, oh, if you really want to see the true like 10-minute arc where I can take you on a journey, then you can invest the time and do that. It's really interesting how that there is a bit of a trend at the moment for doing the longer form things. There's many artists that are doing videos in parts where you can go part 1, part 2, part 3, and they're kind of split over singles. And that is, I'm sure that's a definite reflection of the main way to digest videos is being on YouTube, and you have YouTube playlists and you can just let it roll through. It's difficult for me to truly comment because I'm not 16. Like, I'm not spending my time in my bedroom obsessing over bands and like to that same level. But I'm assuming if 16-year-olds are still the same as like the feelings that I had when I was 16, I would just want to dive in and find out everything I could about these people that made me not feel so alone. And that's essentially what it is. So I think everything's lent towards any expression, whether it be the casual listener that's a 40-year-old that's going, oh, I wonder what this new band is. Like, I'll just look for 30 seconds, see if I'm interested. Or the 16-year-old that just wants to spend hours and hours repeatedly watching things.
So that's a really good point. And I think that's a good way of looking at it as well. As in, don't just do it for one.
No.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way of looking at it. If there was one band I could knock on the door now for you to do a video with, who would it be?
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. And I was thinking that on the way down. I thought, that'd be a really clever question. I thought, actually, I know the answer already. And I actually put Fever to Tell on the way along.
Nice.
I would love to get Karen O on this, for example. I think it should be very interesting to get on.
Yeah, she's fascinating.
Well, actually, all three of them. But Karen O's just got this thing, hasn't she? So the drill wasn't too bad. First things first.
No, was that the first thing?
Yeah. Obviously. Instead of second things
That's a
first.
bit like getting the fire exits or here, out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's just set the scene. Drill was fine.
Well, the main thing that I got
Rather than out
this,
of context monkeys.
yes,
Or eagles.
Aside from anal
Eagles. Our new rock band.
Anal eagles.
It could work.
Well, yeah. Let's not try it.
Okay.
It's out there as a name for anyone.
Yeah. You know what? Take it. I'm not copywriting it. You can have it.
It's a gift.
Yeah. Gift to the rock world.
So I think for me, one of the things that I took from this, if you get someone like David to do your music video,
yes,
what you get is a boatload of ideas.
Yes.
He's a creative
and
type.
Enthusiasm.
A lot of enthusiasm. And even if you might have quite a clear view of what you might want your video to look like, he's going to maybe turn it upside down or just bring things to the table that you wouldn't necessarily have. Aside from the fact that if we were to do a video ourselves, it would probably turn out rubbish because we don't have that skills.
Or, as he said, just do like band on stage, which has been done a million times before.
Yeah. Well, hasn't it though?
Yes. He's completely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it still has a place, but it has to be done different. I.e., the end of a video we'll talk about next week, he kind of gets a bit of that in there.
Yeah. But it's, because on the one hand you think, it must be hard to do a video of a band again, but then you think, well, no, there's a million things that you could put in a piece of video footage.
And one of the main things I was going to mention is the collaboration and the communication side of it. Communication's cropped up loads in this, all the podcasts we've done. But specifically because David is essentially, or any music video director, is an outsider to the band in the most part. He'll pitch for an idea, he'll put a treatment, which is the same as writing a movie or a TV program, a treatment of his ideas, and sort of has to convince you, the artist, that this is what your video says to him when you have a clear idea in your head of what, as you've said, what you want. So, but also works on the other side, as in, because he said about Tame Impala video, they're not going to go for this. It's a man having a heart attack. They're not going to go for this, but this is what I see as this video, and they did.
I love that, yeah.
Yeah, so you just don't know.
Well, communication's key, as we know. And just your ability to send a text message to me.
I do send them.
No, you do send them, but that alone presents its own challenges. But yeah, if you're trying to communicate an idea,
yes,
then wow, that's much harder. And yeah, he just seems to take it so seriously, which on the one hand you'd expect. It's his job and all the rest of it, but irrespective of it being a job, it's a passion. You could tell that he really wants to get under the skin of what the art is of the song and really try and bring it to life. I liked how he called everything pieces as well, like pieces, or the piece, and I was like, it is a piece. That's right. It's an extension of someone else's art, which cannot be an easy thing to do. And as he said, he signed by a production company, which, I mean, you might have heard it in the interview, kind of blew my mind. I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. I thought he either just worked for a production company or maybe he freelanced with them. But he elbowed his way up to the music department, and that's where he wanted to be. Some people look down on it, but some of the most iconic things, if you got Johnny Joe Public said, name a video, they're going to name something like Thriller. Something like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's iconic. Oh, yeah. And that's a music video. Yeah. As a musician, just in terms of how he just brings more ideas to the table, one of the things that I'd not thought about that he touched on, you saying the danger with music videos can be when the artist wants to use the video to clarify what they were singing about. Yes. And that almost presents the listener or the viewer from drawing their own conclusions, interpretations of what the song's about. And I've spoken to a few people about this, whether a song is best left up for interpretation or whether a song should be quite clear in terms of what it's about. And I liked what he was saying in terms of, if it leaves it open there, then a lot of people will get more out of it. rather than if it is really explicitly, right, this song is about this thing, then you've just wiped out a whole chunk of people who might have taken something else.
Yeah, exactly. As a coincidence, I've listened to the Beatles for 19 years, and I've just found out in the last 2 weeks what Ticket to Ride was about. And I've listened to them for 19 years. So,
and did that
it was not
increase or decrease your liking of the song?
Increase because it was a bit naughty. And I just went, this cannot be about this, but it is about.
Are you going to share what it's about?
Well,
for those
Ticket to Ride was written when they were in Germany, and prostitution was legal at the time, and the prostitutes got tickets to say they were clean bill of health, so they had a ticket to ride. And I was like,
there you go.
That is not about that song, but apparently it is. But I just thought it was a nice Beatles pop song, basically.
Well, as did probably the millions of people who bought it at the time.
Exactly.
Or maybe someone's made that up and that's not true.
Maybe. I can't really confer with Mr. McCarthy on this one.
Why not? Get him on.
Oh, brilliant. Wow. But yeah, he's what else were we saying about the whole you get your story about the song or the story about the video, and it's also like a moment in time as well.
Yeah.
Which was spoke about in the Johnny Higgs episode about their albums being a moment in time.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the point really as well.
Tell you what you were saying about things that blew your mind. And you said there can be 12 video directors on one track.
Yeah.
What?
There's a lot of people gunning for opinions there, aren't there?
Yeah. And again, as part of the reason of having David on the show, like that's not something that I would have.
Yeah. But I quite like what he said as well, and this goes for like a lot about his enthusiasm for the job and or the art or the pieces. Was that if I really fall in love with the track and I really want it, I'll probably get it. I'm like, that's a nice message for the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, again, knowing nothing about this part of the industry really, I'd imagine if there's X amount of people writing a treatment, hoping that theirs will be taken, there'll be a chunk of those who possibly are just treating it as a job.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm going to go for, or I've got a stock of however many treatments, and I've already written this one for another song that didn't get used.
Yeah.
So
I bet it happens all the time.
I'm going to put a couple of tweaks on it and send it in for this song. Whereas I got the impression that David would start everything from scratch and really immerse himself in the song and just really commit to what he feels that song should be.
And I think that really will show through his work and his relationships he's built, because in quite a short space of time he's worked with Artic Monkeys, they're quite popular, Tame Impala, and he's got a relationship with Tame Impala, and the band we'll get onto in more detail next week, Arcade Fire.
Yeah, well, part 2 is almost specifically talking about his relationship with Arcade Fire, and it's, yeah, he's built that up, like you say, in a reasonably short period of time.
The 2 words I would describe this episode about would be enthusiasm and intrigue. Next week, the one word I can describe it as jealousy. So I love Arcade Fire.
But there'll be a lot of graft that he's put in to get to the point.
Didn't get that by accident.
Yeah. What he was saying that he used to, I don't know whether he still does, but he was saying in the earlier days, he would send out promo packs of his work, just like a band would.
Should.
Yeah. He'd have that same thing. So anyone looking to get into the video directing game, then, that seemed like a fairly obvious thing to do.
I think it's less obvious now because you don't have the DVD to send, as he said.
Yeah.
So as a band, you don't have the CD to send.
Typically a link.
But there's 2 things I want to mention quickly because I know we're getting quite close to the end. Postcards. We did that. I did that on our behalf. I sent postcards to record companies before I sent the CD.
What, like a picture of Ibiza? Wish you were here.
No, it was Newcastle based ones, like the Time Bridge and stuff like that, like really cheesy postcards, and people kind of responded to it. Then they got the CD and only a couple came back to it, but a couple coming back to is more than none. But the other thing, just regarding that, is how, like, one of the questions that you sent to us before I met David was about who watches music videos. Is it the 16-year-old obsessing over Arcade Fire? Yes. Is it the 35-year-old who he has a band, checks out 30 seconds and gets it on Apple Music or Spotify? The answer is yes to both.
All of the above.
So don't make one video, make 3. Do one video that's for the 16-year-old who's just found the yeahs and thought, I want to absorb everything that they do. But also do the 1-minute trailer, which will fit nicely on an Instagram video, for example.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. Because
and they're all equally valid because everyone consumes things differently. So no longer is that, right, there's a 3 to 4 minute music video and that's what you get. There's now specifically a 30-second version, a 1-minute version, 3-minute version, an 8-minute, 10-minute version, because there's a demand for all of the different.
Yeah, I mean, like in the 90s, you would have two basically, and it was really just one, 3.5 to 4 minutes for MTV or whoever, and then you have the odd one like Busta Rhymes used to do 8-9 minute epics because he had £2 million budget on videos, which Busta doesn't happen anymore. I don't even think albums cost £2 million a minute. Him and Puff Daddy loved a $1 million budget and stuff like that. But yeah, you'd have that. I saw on his DVD bookshelf a Spike Jonze DVD, which is like Beastie Boys and stuff like that. So they were like DVDs you could buy with music videos on, but they were like more for the fan of that video.
Yeah.
Whereas, you just got to think about all the different videos you can do now because there's so many different ways to do them.
Yes, indeed. So, great episode. And
I really enjoyed it. I really liked David.
And a lot more to come in part 2 where we get into the whole Arcade Fire relationship, which will not spoil now.
Excellent.
So as we've mentioned there, upcoming next week is our second instalment with David, where we move on to Arcade Fire, his relationship with them, collaboration, the age gap, and shooting their videos.
We've reached the end of this week's episode of Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast.
Big thank you for tuning in, and remember to stop by iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
While you're there, it would be amazing if you could leave a rating and a review.
All the show notes can be found at www.acpgmusic.com, and if you want to get in touch,
email us your questions, any feedback and any suggestions to info@acpgmusic.com.
That's it for now. Keep supporting upcoming artists,
and we'll catch you next time.